Welcome to the Project Management Prepcast, the key to PMP exam success. Here's your instructor, Cornelius Fichtner.
Hello and welcome to the Project Management Prepcast, your number one source of PMP exam lessons learned. I'm your instructor, Cornelius Fichtner. This is the third of our 5 interviews about PMP exam coaching, and my interview guest is Cathy Vasile. As you will hear shortly, she participated in a PMP bootcamp and then failed her exam because the bootcamp just didn't do it for her. She needed the personal attention of a coach over a longer time than the 3 to 5 days that are the usual duration of a bootcamp. But what I want to make absolutely clear here is this. Even though Cathy didn't have a great experience with her bootcamp, bootcamps themselves are not necessarily bad. Many people use them and pass. But this interview is about her experience and her path, and so we get to hear her not-so-positive view. But just because it wasn't that great for her should not be taken as a generalization that boot camps are bad. It's all a question about what works for you, and so your mileage may differ. So please look at the interview as the story of Cathy's challenges and how she overcame them with the help of a coach. Learn from her struggles. See where you may have similar issues as you are preparing for your own PMP exam. And of course, don't forget to stop by at pmprepcast.com/coaching if you are considering to use a coach for your PMP exam prep. And with that out of the way, here's the interview. Hello, Cathy. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Cornelius.
So tell me, when did you realize that it was time for you to make a change in your PMP exam preparation studies?
Well, I went to a boot camp that was a week long. Well, it was 4 days long. And then you were supposed to schedule your test for the Friday of that week. I went into the exam, taking the exam, knowing I wasn't going to pass it because I just did not grasp anything when I went to this boot camp. It was from 7:30 in the morning to 6:30 at night, and they were focusing on how to pass the exam, and I need to know and understand what the context of the material is. So I just wasn't grasping it. And I applied for my PMP, and I knew the clock was ticking. So it came into April, and I'm like, I need to get my PMP. I don't want to restart this process all over again. So I reached out to a few people in the industry and asked to get a PMP coach, and I found a coach, and from there I studied with my coach. He gave me the materials, and I was successful in passing my PMP thanks to his coaching ability.
Right. Let me ask you a few questions about the bootcamp. Before you went into the bootcamp, did you do any kind of studying of the PMBOK guide or the exam materials?
Yes, I went to a PMI-sponsored, the 35-hour class, the Intro to the PMBOK. I also was reading the PMBOK prior to going to that class. However, it was hard to keep focused reading it because the material was just...
Yeah, it's very dry.
Yeah, very, very dry. It was making sense, but it wasn't making sense, and I had to read over and over, and I felt I was just reading chapters over and over because I wasn't studying. I wasn't grasping the information.
Right, and both before the bootcamp and during the bootcamp, your issue was that you needed to make it click and make it fit into your daily work as a project manager. The theory alone wasn't it.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, without trying to diss boot camps here, that's what they're doing. They're teaching you to pass the PMP exam, right? And if you want to also improve at the same time and use this in your daily life, then a boot camp is not necessarily your approach here. So do you remember, once you found your coach, what was the first thing that your coach did with you?
The first thing I remember him asking me, did you study page 61? I'm like, page 61, that's the knowledge map and stuff. I said, well...
Yeah, that's table 3-1. Yeah, yes. Everybody needs to know that by heart, yeah.
Well, when I went to boot camp, they had their own, they called it a memory map. And right. That's what I was using. And he goes, absolutely not. And I had that, it was a 2-page document I had it memorized. I could data dump that. It had formulas that had the knowledge areas. I could data dump it less than 15 minutes. My coach insisted I had page 61 down. He goes, you need to know that. You need to data dump that. And then he gave me some other tools from another PMP company. There was a trifold information sheet, and it helped a lot. It has formulas on there. It helped me understand the concepts. That page 61 was critical for me to move forward. And at first I was fighting him on studying that 61 and memorizing it for about maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks. And I finally got, I was being a hardhead. I said, you know what? I'm paying him this money. That memory map didn't work. I need to do it Dan's way. And I got that memory map, page 61. And once I had that down and I was able to data dump that, plus my formulas, it started clicking. And I was finding success with my tutor.
Okay, and when you say data dump, it basically means you're taking an empty piece of paper and from memory, without looking at the book, you would redraw basically page 61 onto that empty piece of paper.
Yeah, page 61 plus various formulas and some other notes.
Various formulas, yeah. Yeah, and just on a side note here for our listeners, we're talking about PMBOK Guide 5th edition here. If you listen to this interview in 10, 20 years from now and the PMBOK Guide has changed, yeah, that page number will probably not be correct anymore. Yeah, but it's the table that shows the knowledge area and the process groups and how they relate to the individual processes here. Okay, so that was the first thing that he did with you. He told you need to memorize this. Did he also develop a personalized study schedule with you?
Yes, he did. Him and I met.
Based on what did he do that? How did he work with you to get to that personalized schedule?
Well, via conference call, him and I set up a schedule that him and I would meet once a week at 4 o'clock. I remember it was 4 o'clock because my bosses were behind me 100% and told me take that time to get your PMP certification. So I met with him once a week from 4 to 5. We would go over the PMBOK, page 61, then other areas. He would give me homework every week. I had to do my homework, so it made me accountable. He also had a website that he gave me access to, which was very helpful. And I had some testing. The testing turned out to be very beneficial, especially the week before my exam, because the week before my exam, I took that week off, and I just did tests morning and night. I would just do tests. And it worked. And that was because of my coach's recommendation. I cannot say enough about him because he was instrumental in me passing that PMP exam.
Okay. Once a week you met with him. Do you feel that was enough for you? Were there moments when you thought, I wish I could meet him twice a week?
There were times, but my coach was very good because I, in the beginning, was a little needy. I admit it. I was a little needy, and I was relying on him a little too much. And once he set those boundaries and said, look, you got to do this, it forced my hand because I was gun shy. And I guess I want to call it tough love, but the tough love worked because once that was established, I started getting it, and I listened to him. That's when things started flowing smoothly, when I listened to him and stopped doing it my way. Because obviously my way, I didn't pass the exam the first time. So that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, and you said the last week before you went to the exam, you took one mock exam after the other. What was your focus there? I always recommend to my students in the last week, yes, do these mock exams, prepare yourself, use an exam simulator online or whatever you have at your disposal. But the number one thing is don't just do them, learn from them. So look at the questions that you had wrong and analyze. Why did I have this wrong? What did I misunderstand? How did I misinterpret the question? Was there something I didn't know? Was that your approach as well?
Yes, absolutely. That's exactly what I did. And my coach was great because he knew I took off that week, and he kept in touch with me, was asking me. I would send him my test results. Every day I would tell him, okay, I took 2 tests today. Here's my test results. And I could see the improvement. But like you said, those answers that I got wrong, I went back to them, and using the PMBOK and some other reference material, needed to understand why I got that wrong so that when I went into the exam, I got it right. I needed to learn from my mistakes, and I did. And it was a valuable tool.
How did you meet with your coach? Was that online, over the phone? What was the mechanics?
We had a conference call, and then he had a go-to meeting. I guess it's a go-to meeting, whatever you want, on a web-based thing where he would have his
Web-based
screen
tool.
up. Yeah, web-based tool. He had a web-based tool that I had would be, we would go over it together. So it worked. I was a little hesitant in the beginning. I'm going to be honest with you. I wasn't sure how it was going to work with him being in another state and us not being face-to-face, because I like that face-to-face interaction. Believe it or not, it worked. It really did work.
Okay. So I hear that you seem to have been hesitant in the beginning to accept the coach, to really let him be the driving factor here. How did your coach in the end get you to change? How did he motivate you? How did he make you, almost see the light that he's got the way to get you to the exam?
Because I was struggling, even say these test exams, I was struggling. And I used the tough love analogy, because he said, you got to do this, you've got to do this. And I was leaning on him too much. Once he said, look, you've got to stop leaning on me, I took it upon myself to be accountable. And I am a person who's very accountable. For some reason, I was so gun-shy because I failed that test, and it was just embarrassing that I failed the test after my company spent a lot of money at that boot camp. I was very gun-shy, but he did the tough love, and I got on track. He gave me homework. He made me accountable. I had to do my homework. If I got something wrong, he sat there and he explained what the answer, how to get to the answer, how to, you have a question, read the question. Make sure you read the first and the last line, and then you go into the center and read the rest of the question. You cannot skip words. You need to read the entire question, because that one word you skip could be your downfall. And he was right.
Mm-hmm. One thing you said is, it didn't click for you in the two classes you did earlier on, because there was no connection seemingly to your everyday work. Was there a connection between what you and the coach worked on? Were you able to then translate that into your everyday project management and see, this is where this fits into my day-to-day work?
Yes, and the funny thing is, I was in the middle of a major project for my company. It was the number one project in the company, and so it was starting to click. Now I got it, because this was a big project I was working on. It had different streams, and working with Dan, it was not only did it help me pass the PMP, but it helped me finish that project successfully.
Excellent. What if you had any questions about your homework? You had the session yesterday, you're working on your homework. Oh, I got a question for my coach. What did you do?
I would email him. He was very accessible. Okay. If I emailed him at 9 o'clock, I didn't expect him to get back to me like that minute. My coach was very prompt in getting back to me. I also had a cell phone number to get a hold of him. And it was funny, because the day I took the exam, I got all these texts from him because I didn't get a chance to call him right after I got my exam, because I had all these other people were calling me. My phone was blowing up because everybody knew I was at my exam, and everybody's asking me what's going on. And the one person I needed to call, I couldn't call because everybody else was calling me. So he called me when I finally got home. He goes, "You're killing me. Why didn't you call me?" So, but it was because of him I passed the exam. I truly, truly credit him with that.
Okay, so you were hesitant. You kind of leaned on him. You said, "Nah, I'm not going to do it your way." Then at one point you said, "Okay, I'm going to do it your way." How quickly after that did you see a change in how your studies went?
Within days. Because
wow. Okay.
Within days I could see the difference, because I was starting to understand where he was getting at, using the materials that he provided for me, on the materials that he recommended I purchase. It was a game for your cell phone. It was an app. It was very, very cheap, but it was a PMP game to help you get the tools with the right...
Oh, yeah. So an ITTO kind of memorizing.
That's it. I'm sorry. That's
okay.
It. I must have deleted it because I didn't want to see it anymore. But that tool was great, because I would do that in the morning. I have a 25-minute train ride, so I get on the train. I would play the game, and on my way home, I would play the game, and that was a huge help. My coach, he gave me the tools, He gave me the direction I needed to pass that test. And, I need to understand what I'm doing. I just can't take a test to take a test. I need to understand the material, because if I don't, I'm not wired that way. I need to understand it, because to take that exam, just to take the exam and have a PMP after my name, that is not true to me. I need to be able to really, I've earned that PMP, because now, you know what? I understand the material now, and I can manage my projects better because I passed this PMP exam.
I feel rather silly asking this question because I know what the answer is, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. Do you feel you got your money's worth from the coaching session?
Oh my gosh, yes, and then some. I probably owe my coach money, because I was such a pain. I was probably one of his high maintenance one. Don't mean to be high maintenance, but like I said, gun shy from failing it. I just had this sense of failure after I failed it, because I worked really hard at that boot camp, but I wasn't grasping it. And when I was in that boot camp, by the time you got done around 6:30, you're exhausted. They had you in a special diet. I don't know how to explain it, but then I felt bad asking questions in the class because I didn't want to hold anybody else back. But then at the end of the night, I was so exhausted. I should have went to the presenter who was teaching, but I didn't, because I was too tired. And that's my fault. All the money my company paid, I should have been asking questions. However, I didn't. But with my coach, I was able to ask questions, and he guided me how to take that, not only to take the test, but understand the material behind the test.
Mm-hmm. Your company obviously also paid for the coach, right?
No, I paid for it.
Oh, they did not?
No,
oh, okay.
I paid for it out of my
that was
pocket.
your own investment then?
Yes, it was. And it was an investment, well, I got my return on investment probably 10 times.
Right. And let me just guess here, without talking a specific cost here, the money you paid for the coaching with your coach, the individual sessions, that was probably less money than was forked out for the boot camp or the class together previously, right?
Absolutely, because if you take in the boot camp costs, plus hotel, plus the travel expenses, it was so much cheaper. So much for the fact that I have employees under me that are getting ready to apply for the PMP, and I strayed them from going to the boot camp, and I'm encouraging them to get the coach to help them.
Okay, and just once again, I want to make it absolutely clear, we're not trying to diss boot camps here. It's just one of these things. Boot camps, they either work for you or they don't work for you, and when they don't work for you, then individual personalized coaching or group coaching in a group, that may be the way for you to go. Cathy, lastly here, many of our listeners, they're preparing for their PMP exam right now. How will they know if they need a coach? How can they know, okay, my company's paying for a boot camp. Should I tell my company, don't pay for the boot camp. That's not going to work for me. Give me a coach instead. How do you draw the line without actually trying a class and going in and then, like you, almost failing and then saying, okay, should have gone with the coach first?
Yep. If they're looking to pass their PMP exam, the boot camp may be for them. But if they're looking to pass a PMP exam and use the knowledge from the PMP exam from PMI's workbook, I suggest going with a coach, because the boot camps are focused on you passing the test, not understanding the material.
All right. Perfect. Thank you very much, Cathy. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Cornelius.
And that's it for our interview with Cathy Vasile. As a reminder, to learn more about our PMP exam coaching program, please go to pmprepcast.com/coaching. Until next time.